Hello and welcome to Two-Way Talk Basketball Podcast, talking about everything basketball from both perspectives. With dual Olympian and NBL champion Mark Worthington and dual Olympian and two times NBL MVP Chris Anstey, hosted by sports presenters Candy Hertz and Nathan Strempel. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome to Two-Way Talk Video Podcast. We are so stoked to be here today. We, of course, have our dual Olympians with us, Mark Worthington. We've got Chris Anstey as well. My name's Candy Hertz and Nathan Strempel. We finished our preseason training as a little team of four. Obviously, we're pretty pumped and feeling like we're ready to hit the court. How are you feeling?
Pretty exciting to have live basketball back in Australia and this unique scenario with every game live on TV, a hub up in North Queensland. To still have sport in the middle of this worldwide pandemic is pretty exciting.
I'm so thrilled that we actually got ourselves together, the four of us, and we're able to chat through it. I love the angles that we're going to be taking and the plans that we've got ahead. Chris, talk us through it. What are we going to be doing this season?
Well, we've spoken to a lot of coaches already. We've spoken to players in the WNBL, and one of the overwhelming messages that we got is that they've done a great job of getting to know the girls. We know what's going on away from the basketball court. We've gotten to know them as athletes. We want to evaluate them on the court. We want to speak about their performances. We want to hold a spotlight on the actual WNBL, evaluate that, comment about it, and let's see where we go.
And we're so happy, of course, to have the girls out of quarantine from Melbourne that have travelled up to far North Queensland. Crazy 2 weeks for them. And then a couple of days and straight onto the court. What do you guys think about the bubble? What do you think, Wertho?
Well, we've seen many blueprints already of how it's supposed to be, but let's not talk about the bubble. Let's talk about basketball. That's what we're here for. It doesn't matter where you are, what you're doing. It's a basketball court, it's a basketball, and we're expecting that these couple of weeks will be super exciting. I'm excited to see the girls play, get on the court and play again. I'm excited to see what challenges this season will come with a shortened season. But most importantly, I'm just excited to watch the girls get out there and play.
You know, the thing is, and we've both played around the world, is that the reputation that Australian basketball has had on the men's and women's side for a long time is that we have the longest preseasons in the world and we play the fewest games. So what we've done here, accidentally, of course, and we didn't plan for it, was we've almost fallen in line with what our athletes could expect if they were playing in Europe. It's a shortened preseason. There's a lot more games every single week. It really is going to be a great test. And I love the fact that, I know we'll get to it, but every game's going to be televised. They're going to be quick backups. There's going to be nowhere to hide for our girls. They need to turn up and compete every single game. They will be on show. In the past, when the TV cameras haven't been there, you know, we've all been at games that haven't quite been up to standard as the games progressed. This year is going to be very, very different in the WNBL. We will be watching.
I'd love to hear both of your opinion on this. You talk about it's like playing in Europe, but I think even more so the fact that the season's so short, it's almost like tournament play, which we more and more over the years have done really well at. Wertho, let's start with you. What does it take for a team to succeed in that conditions? Who might it favour? Who may it go against?
Well, I think there's two trains of thought with this. And I think if we can take the AFL, for example, of what happened, we saw two young up-and-coming teams in Port Adelaide and Brisbane really jump out of the gates and sustain that position on the top of the ladder. But then you had the teams like your Richmonds and your Geelongs that were just full of veterans that got themselves through the season, probably managed themselves a little bit better, and then played great football at the end of the season. Now, we know we got a couple of very stacked, very veteran teams in the WNBL. I'm interested to see who else is going to step up to the occasion. We know that the two Melbourne teams in both the Boomers and the Flyers have got a wealth of talent at their disposal. But who else is going to step up? Who's going to take the opportunity and run with it? And hopefully we can see someone challenge these two Melbourne teams that we know are built for championships.
You're right. The two Melbourne teams, I think, will be very, very hard to knock out of those top two spots. It comes down, I think, in such a short season to three things: the talent that you have at your disposal, the consistency of the roster you've been able to carry forward from the season before, and a little bit of luck with injuries. A key injury this season could absolutely derail your season. So as stacked and as cohesive as any of these teams are, to win this thing, I think they're going to need just a little bit of luck as well.
Guys, we've spoken a lot about the depth that's required, obviously, to make sure there's no injuries and the sheer number of games that they're playing within the 6-week period. But do you think it's a really great opportunity for our young developing players to be able to really get some good court time?
I do. And it's a really tricky one. And I've spent a little bit of time in this space the last few years, having a daughter who aspires to step into it. And the collegiate pathway for young, talented Australian female basketball players has just blown up. There are 76, and I think they've missed a couple, close on 80 freshmen and sophomores alone that will be competing in the United States this season. So the drain of young talent from the WNBL is huge. Now, on the flip side of that, the returning talent is going to be incredible in a few years, and we'll start to see it this year. But with an 8-team league, I think still it's going to be the experienced veterans that will win or lose a season for their respective clubs. And the young players, they'll find their roles, and there are a couple that stand out that we'll get into, but I still think it's going to come down to experience. Most of the really good young talented players in their teens, I'm talking now, are over playing college basketball in America.
I think the fact that there's no imports here this year is really an opportunity for people to step up and take that next step. Maybe some of this young talent has been playing behind the imports in the past, but now they've got to step up into that role, whether it's into the starting five or to be the actual person. I know we'll get into the youth players a little bit later on in the segment, but there was quite a few of those youth players that need to step up into their new role and take charge in that. And for me, that's going to be a really exciting part of the season. And first and foremost that I'll say is actually watching someone like a Shyla Heal get that first point guard position without any expectations or sitting behind someone and just saying, here's the team, run with it.
And you know what? It's interesting. You mentioned the no imports, and it's potentially a catch-22 because in all of Australian basketball, the imports have had fans flocking to the games and tuning in on television. So we lose that this year. And probably the overriding quality of the imports who come to the WNBL and the NBL is they make plays. They don't run plays. And I know I sound a little bit like a coach when I say that, but we need to make sure that our young Australian guards especially, we don't want to see them bringing the ball down the court and getting their team into a set every time down like some of them have in their backup roles. We need them to be ultra aggressive, make plays, attack the pick and roll, go and get their superstars involved. But I still think for that reason alone, the best playmaker in the WNBL this year is Leilani Mitchell. She plays, inverted commas, like an import. She'll come off and find her own shot. She'll come off and distribute the ball. I think she's the closest thing talent-wise and style of game we have in the WNBL this year that represents what an import would ordinarily look like.
I'll say this, Chris, having lucky enough to be living in WA now, just coached in a season. No, don't
hang on.
Someone who for 20 years has hated on Perth. Now I'm lucky enough to be in WA.
Mate, when you guys were in lockdown, don't worry about that. I was in the pubs. I was showing Chris. I was like, Chris, how's your home looking? Because I'm out here having a beer in the beer garden. No, I'm lucky enough to be living in WA. And the reason I came back to WA, A, for family reasons, and B, that I get to coach again my home team of Bunbury in the State League. And we just went through a season where there was no imports. And so I got to see firsthand what that would look like versus what a regular season would look like at a state league level. And what it showed me was there was so much talent that probably don't get a look in, or coaches weren't using them because they had these imports at their disposal. And I think we just discovered quite a few diamonds in the rough over here in WA because they were given that extra exposure and extra time. Now, I agree with Chris. There were imports are there to make plays. They're there to make baskets in crunch time. That's what they get paid for. Now this Australian talent has to step up to the plate. They have to be able to make those plays. And like Chris said, Leilani Mitchell is probably the closest thing that we've got to the import in the league. But then we've got Izzy McBeggar, Liz Cambridge. There's so many great names in this league that can make big-time plays. And it's that next tier that we're watching to see who actually steps up to the plate.
Last one before we move on to this groundbreaking TV deal, then unpack the rosters a little bit. Just in terms of, there's no time to sleep in this season, 6 weeks and it's done. Is there any case to be made for a disadvantage to the Melbourne teams who have had that significant lockdown in the lead up to this compared to other groups that have been able to train together?
Well, there's a case to be made, and I'm sure the coaches and the clubs will make it if the time is right, but they're professional athletes, and you know, it's been, to put my coaches hat on, it's been really, really easy to tell which athletes train on their own, that go out and find a way to get better and don't depend on the team environment. So the teams with the most true professionals will do well, because whether you're in lockdown, whether you've got team training available, granted it's a little bit different, there's no reason not to go and get better. You can always find a way.
The absolutely amazing, groundbreaking TV deal that's come about is just so exciting for the sport, as well as obviously for the league itself. What do you guys think? Every game, Foxtel, KS Sports, ABC TV and iView. That's amazing. What does it mean for the sport, do you think?
I think Chris has already sort of mentioned it, that there's no place to hide now. Every game's going to be there. And furthermore, it probably helps. The WNBL probably wants to expand somewhere in the near future to accommodate all these young juniors coming back from college. We are lucky to have a plethora of great young talent over in the States currently, and over the next couple of years. They've got to have a home to come back to. We don't want to rely on the NBL 1 program just to be able to keep these people and these kids in the sport. We want to give them a professional home to come home to. We've seen it in the NBL. It's been a slow build to expansion, but we've finally got there. The Phoenix obviously coming in, Tasmania coming in a year or two. We've seen that expansion. Now the WNBL probably needs to have some sort of expansion as well, but first and foremost, it comes with those games being all live on TV. It comes with great entertainment and the talent being there. And so while they still have a ways to go, I think it's a huge breakthrough for the WNBL. I'm very happy for all the girls that they get this opportunity, for all their families that probably miss so many games throughout the year, and friends. It's now a chance for them all to be able to sit back, watch their favourite player on a weekly basis, which will be great.
Could not agree more with all of that. And I'll add one little piece, is that the WNBL have cried out for years. The players have cried out for years. They need people coming in. They want to creep closer to equality. The league has to get it right. It starts with the athletes and the coaches. They need to get the officiating right. They need to get the commentary right, because the thing is, the more people that watch your game, the more people that are going to evaluate it, like we're going to do every single week. And if we see things we don't like, just like the general public, it's going to be spoken about. So great responsibility. Let's all give it a couple of weeks, but let's make sure we hold everybody from the referees to the players to the coaches accountable. And I think it's a great league. I really think it's one of the best few leagues in the world. And let's make sure we demonstrate that, because now, like you said, Wertho, everybody gets to see it.
I love that that Chris has pointed out the officiating straight away, because we can't get fined anymore.
No, and I know it's funny, but
we can't get fined anymore.
Well, we can't, but it's the last step the NBL needs to take, and the WNBL need to take it as well. The last thing that I want to be watching when I tune in on Wednesday night is watching 50 free throws and trying to understand what the referees are calling. We need to let these girls be the game. If someone's too big, too strong, too athletic, too fast, reward them. We want to see them make plays. We don't want the game stopping and starting because somebody put a fingernail on their opponent. Let's let these athletes shine on television and not get caught up in the refereeing.
I love that coming from someone whose whole career was too big, too strong, too athletic. But it's nice that you're calling out the referees before the game started. I didn't miss anyone, though. Gave the commentary a little word that I noticed. But the most important thing you said, Chris, is that we have elite talent, and here we have a chance to see them. So, Chris, let's start with you, and then Worther, I want your thoughts as well around just movements in these rosters, additions, some that have stayed, some that have gone. We've mentioned no imports, so it completely changes the dynamic of it. Chris, who are the key additions this season?
Well, Liz Cambridge, and we'll speak about her all season long, and we don't know what she's going to bring. We know that she's one of the most physically dominant players in the world. We know that she can be a loose cannon and she can do some crazy things. So it's a watch this space, but of course she's the biggest addition. I can't wait to see Alicia Froling play. She had a rough collegiate career, very, very talented player, had an injury setback last year. And now for the first time, I believe, we get 4 siblings playing simultaneously across both the men's and women's national competition in this country. So very, very excited to see how Alicia does. Can't wait to see her go against Keeley and see what that looks like as well. But look, but for me, the really, really interesting one coming off the back of a WNBA championship is Ezzy McBeggar. Now, everybody's talking about the Flyers. Ezzy, for me, is one of the best matchups if Guy Malloy wants to go and play man-to-man on Liz Cambridge. She's fast enough. She's strong enough. She's long. She blocks shots. She's just spent a year. Now, credit to Ezzy as well, and I didn't know this until I spoke to Guy, that she realised she wasn't ready for the WNBA 2 years ago and stayed and worked on her game. She only went when she was ready. She's had a really fantastic year. And the thing that's scary, if I'm an opposition player coming up against Ezzy, she can shoot the ball now. So flick her the ball on the elbow, and if you stand off like teams have done for the last 2 years, and she can knock down that elbow jump shot consistently, that's going to be an issue. So I can't wait to see her. And just another little sneaky one. Up in Bendigo, they've signed a young girl named Paige Price before she takes off and goes and plays college. So looking forward to seeing what she's done. She's had a bit of a roller coaster of a junior career, bounced around a little bit, but one thing that we do not doubt is she's one of the most talented young girls in Victoria. And being on a team that probably won't threaten for the championship, may find herself getting an opportunity that she may not have got on a slightly stronger team.
Well, now that Chris has named everyone to look out for and all the key additions, I'll go for the one key out, which is Sam Whitcomb. We were hoping to see Sam playing for the Perth Lynx this year, and her not playing has put a huge dent. I thought Perth had the opportunity to be one of those teams that could have ran against those Victorian clubs with her shooting, and adding someone like Darcy Garvin as well from the Townsville Fire. I thought they could have had a really exciting year, but Sam Whitcomb missing out is a huge out. I did speak about Darcy Garvin. I think that's a really big inclusion for Perth. Watching a few of the games last year, they struggled with their inside presence at times, and having someone who is an opal, does a little bit of everything. She was a solid defender. She can shoot a three. She goes after the boards, all those sorts of things. She really needs to step up this season for the Lynx to have a chance. But once again, just disappointed that we're not going to be able to see Sam playing this season.
And congratulations to her on having her first child, and great reason to step away. I just want to step back a second though, Chris, because I loved you bringing up that point about Ezzy McBeggar coming off a WNBA championship. You played some of your best basketball in the NBL after your experience in the NBA. Can you just share a bit of your own personal experience of what that was like playing in America, then coming back to the Australian League?
My memory's not that good. No, the story that I tell is that, and Ezzy's got a very similar story, is that the very first practice session that the Mavericks backcourt rolled the ball into me in my first training session, I tried to get to my right-hand hook in the middle of the lane because it was my best, most consistent move at that stage of my career. No, and I'm sure there's still a mark on the side wall of the training facility, and that's exactly what Ezzy got with the type of athletes that she's been going against. And again, Guy was really keen to mention that she used to, she's already come back to this group and letting him know that if I dribble the ball too high, when the ball's in the post, the guards are going to come and strip it away. If I'm too slow in my release, my direct defender's got a chance to get a fingernail on it. So I think the thing for me, and I think what we'll see with Ezzy, she's just going to be a lot sharper. She's not going to waste anything. And the translation of the court or the game seems to slow down when you come back from America because it's officiated differently, it's faster and it's stronger. The game seems to slow down when you come back here. So I think Ezzy will seem to have a lot more time. And I just feel like they're going to highlight her a lot and can't wait to watch her.
I hope they do. I can't wait to watch her too. Whether we talk a lot when we're discussing, of course, who's the best player on the team, who we're keeping our eye on in terms of who's going to score the most. But what about who's the most fun to watch? Who are you excited to see on the court this season? That's just going to be a fun person to go put a bit of showmanship on and be enjoyable for us to watch.
Well, I think it's Leilani Mitchell for me. She has it all as far as the way that she dribbles the ball, able to cross people over, and no-look passes, all that sort of stuff she brings to the game is really fun to watch. I think she's one of the rare players that is able to set up her teammates, but also able to go out there and be the top scorer for her team whenever she feels like it. Leilani has probably been passive-aggressive in the last couple of years and trying to facilitate, and she'll have that sort of challenge again this year with such a stacked team of where does she look to go and what does she know. But when she decides that she's going to start scoring and that's her time to go, I don't think there's any better player in the league when she gets going.
Chris, I love your take on that as well.
Look, I agree. I don't want to agree with Wertho too often, but I think it's that the thing. I want to reserve my judgment until our next episode when I've had a look at every single player, because as much as we'd like to think ourselves experts, we are guessing to some extent. Leilani's proven. I want to see these young players play. I want to see Shyla Heal starting in a WNBL club. I want to see Zatina up there at Townsville as well. I want to see what Bendigo do, and I want to see what some of the veterans do. I'm going to reserve my judgment for a week.
Well, we're kind of keen to know what everyone's predictions are going to be for the season. So we're ready to show those now?
Well, I'm going to go first. And my MVP this season, I think, should be Liz Cambridge. She is not only one of the best players in this league, but she's one of the best players in this world. And the Flyers would be ridiculous if they don't make her the first, second, and third option. What we saw from her in the last couple of seasons with the Las Vegas Aces is she's able to shoot the three ball. She's got the post moves, and she can shoot over the top of doubles as well. It's going to be interesting to see her passing. For the youth player, I've gone with Shyla Heal. Now, all the reasons I've already spoken about. She's a young player that's been given the keys to the castle. And what she does with it would be exciting. Some of the other people are relying on people to get them the ball. So I'm going to go with Shyla to put on a show up in Townsville. Coach of the Year. Now, everyone talks about the two Victorian clubs, and I thought about this long and hard. I think it needs to be someone not from the Victorian club. So I'm going to go with Paul Goris. Canberra, with the team that he's got, a little consistency with the team that he has, but also those veteran leaders. Maybe they're the team that can hang with the Victorian clubs. And the eventual champions, well, I'm going to go with the Boomers. I think that the Flyers have got a lot of pressure on them to win a championship this year. And I think there's got to be something said about Guy Malloy and the way that he operates, and especially comes to the crunch time of the season. I know that they'll be running their offense very, very smoothly, whether that be the flex or the shuffle cut or whatever he chooses to use. I know that that will be drained into their brain so far that it doesn't matter what defense is thrown at them. I'm going to go with the Boomers to be your eventual champions.
And I'll start by agreeing with you, Wertho. The MVP of this league should be Liz Cambridge. She is one of the best players and is herself. If she gets it together, and we're only asking you to do it for 6 weeks, she is the most dominant player at both ends of the floor. With her and Leilani Mitchell together, she's going to actually she won't have every defensive player so keyed in on her because the Flyers will kill. She's going to be incredible. She wins MVP, I think, hands down. My youth player, I've spoken about her enough. The criteria is that the player must be 22 years or younger when this season finishes. I'm going for a back-to-back winner, Ezzy McBeggar. She is the best young player in this league. Coach of the year. I'll tell you what, Paul Goris has lost the best backcourt in the WNBL, so he's going to need to be the coach of the year to get that team to where it was last year. They're still defending champions, but for me, the Flyers win so many games on talent alone. It's not just X's and O's, it's managing personalities, it's managing egos. Cheryl Chambers wins coach of the year. And the championship for me, I agree with you. And I've mentioned I spoke to Guy Malloy, and he's really, really strong on not having to compete against the Flyers and, of course, all the other teams, but the Flyers and all of the other teams having to worry about the Boomers. I love that about Guy. And for that reason, I'm actually tipping the Flyers to win it.
Well, I reckon we're all going to have the exact same first line with all of our predictions. So I will definitely reveal that I am the same. And I'm wondering if maybe at the end of this prediction list, we should all make a bit of a guess about what her highest score might be in one of her games, given that's her specialty. So I reckon we throw that one in there too. I love Ezzy as our youth player. I think she plays with so much heart. I think she knows who she is, and I'm excited to see her grow through this league this year. Coach, I'd love to chat to you more, Chris, about the chat you had with Guy today. Everything I've ever heard and seen about him as well. I think the way he brings his team together, that unity, I think, is so important for a tiny 6-week season. The girls haven't been able to train as much together, especially in Melbourne, but they know each other so well. And what Guy is so good at is bringing that team together. So I'm putting him up there for that. And I love the Boomers and I do believe in them, but I switched sides and think that depth of that Flyers roster, I couldn't go past. Nath, over to you.
Well, I have gone a little different. And let me start by saying that Liz Cambage isn't the MVP of the WNBL. She's just about the best player in the world. So there's no doubt she should be a red-hot favourite for it. But if we talk about the most valuable player, if Liz was to get hurt and not be able to play again this season, that Flyers roster is still going to have a pretty fair season. But I look at that Canberra Capitals team that's going to won a championship last year. Yes, they've lost 2 significant pieces in their imports, but Kelsey Griffin and Mariana Tola are significant competitors. Little carrot there as well is that there isn't particularly Olympic Games coming up soon. If I'm Kelsey Griffin, I'm going, there's one spot when I'm competing against Sam Whitcomb and Leilani Mitchell for it. So Kelsey Griffin's won grand final MVPs before. I think between the two of them, they're going to have a bit of pride in defending that championship. And for those two, they have to be next level. Just like you said, Paul Goris needs to be coach of the year. For the Capitals to compete, those guys need to be another level, and they will be the most valuable on their team and maybe just a smoke you for most valuable player in the league. When it comes to best youth player, both Chris and Mark have mentioned Leilani Mitchell. I'm a huge Leilani fan, but she's 35 and a half going into this season. So the big question is, who's the next Australian Opals point guard? And I think Shyla Hill is so well positioned to put her hand up for that. She just has an incredible work ethic, trains under her dad the entire time during the off-season. This 6-week season with games repeat one after the other just suits her game the first time she gets to play her position and start and get handed the keys under a great coach in Shannon Seabohm. I think Shyla is going to be incredible, and that leads into my call for Coach of the Year. Often you don't see Coach of the Year going necessarily to the team that wins or the team that finishes top. It's sometimes voted for a coach that potentially overachieves on what's predicted for their roster. Shannon Seabohm, one of very few Australian coaches we can talk about winning a gold medal in international tournaments, and this 6-week season almost reflects the tournament. So we're not talking about the Fire being overly talented, but I just want to watch for what Shannon Seabohm can do with that group. So again, just to try and present a point of difference, I could see him coming through and winning Coach of the Year. But when it comes down to winning the championship, when you've got a a roster that wouldn't look out of place being Australian Opals roster and how deep those fly team goes with players that have worn the green and gold. I think any way you spin it, it's hard to see them not coming through and taking the chocolates at the end of the season.
So we're going to have to ask Brad, who is behind the scenes on our tech, to keep that screen, and let's see what are we. Should we put anything down on the line for whoever wins the most of those guys? Any bets? No.
I think it's going to have to be whoever gets the least will have to shout beers when all four of us get together at some stage.
Which is really hard in different states.
Speaking of bets, though, I am looking forward. We will have a little bit of a betting segment on here because it's a really important part of raising revenue for the game, and it's going to be a part of all kinds of sports. So I think we might just find a little sneaky segment to give a few real tips after we've seen the girls after this week.
So we'll wrap up our show each week with a segment we'll call The Final Play. It's a good chance for us to chat about anything that's not currently happening in the WNBL, something in one of our different leagues. Will Weaver's been a big point of conversation this week. Chris, what do you think? Is he going to go?
Well, he's over there quarantining, and the Oklahoma City head coaching job is available. He's on a very, very short list, and he's every chance. What that means for the NBL, I don't know, other than the fact that I think it's an incredible rubber stamp, just like our players have gone to the NBA, for our coaching staff or our coaches to go across and be recognised as internationally qualified coaches. I think it's incredible. So I wish him all the best. If he doesn't get that head coaching role, he'll probably pick up an assistant coaching role if he wants it over the Sydney Kings job. So I'm not quite sure we'll see him back at the Kings, which would be an incredible thing for Will Weaver.
Yeah, I'm super happy for Will and whatever he decides to do and whatever he gets in this period. He's a very intelligent bloke, but more importantly, he's a very, very good man. Speaks very well. The players love playing for him. Couldn't be happier that he's got this opportunity.
Other one that's a key talking point, and really interested in your thoughts, both of you, 2 Olympic Games playing for the Boomers. Brett Brown stepping away as Boomers coach. Who do we see stepping into the void?
It'll be Brian Goorjian. I think you can lock that in, I think.
Love to see Gorge back at the helm, and he's just a fantastic coach. It's great that he's back in the NBL first and foremost, but it'd be even better to see him coaching the green and gold.
And we're going to have the NBA back almost, you can barely blink and it's almost going to be back. I think I heard a rumor today, December 22, something crazy like that. There's some good trades going on. Anything that's caught your eye, Chris?
Well, there's been a little bit, and the trade period hasn't started yet. The little sneaky whisper I'm hearing is that the New York Knicks might be able to get Spencer Dinwiddie across, and he's trying to sell off and have people invest in his contract. But look, the big free agent name that's out there at the moment is Drew Holiday, and very strong rumor that he'll find his way to the Nets as well. So that might involve Dinwiddie, which would, of course, not have him go to the Nets. But little sneaky one for Drew Holiday would be very, very interesting to see him playing next to Luka Doncic at the Mavericks next year, and that might be a little bit more likely than people think.
Biggest name in free agency. Have you heard of the MVP, Giannis Antetokounmpo? He is the biggest free agent.
He's not going anywhere.
I'd love to see him.
He's not a free agent.
At Dallas with the big three Europeans. That would be awesome. Chris, you can't tell me as a Dallas Mavericks former player, I know you go for the Dallas Mavericks, that you wouldn't love to see 3 Europeans running that show in Dallas.
Of course I would, but it's not going to happen.
You're such a
it's not possibly. If he goes anywhere, he'll go to Miami or Golden State. But I think he'll stay at Milwaukee, and they'll retool around him.
One to watch. We just come back as we close, and we'll talk NBL, NBA, and everything basketball this week. But as we're on the verge of the WNBL season starting, we've unpacked what we're looking at. Gents, any final thoughts from either of you as we're on the verge of what will be a historic season? Chris, let's start with you.
Watch. Let's all support the WNBL and watch their games. We've wanted it on television. It's the only professional basketball competition we will have on our screens. It goes for 6 weeks. If you're sitting down at night and there's nothing on, make a commitment to watch the girls. They can do with all of our support. It will be fantastic to watch the quality of basketball played. For those who don't watch much women's basketball, will absolutely surprise you. So support them. We'll be supporting them. We'll be watching all of the games, and we can't wait to bring it to you each week.
Couldn't agree with you more, big fella. It's long overdue that we be able to watch these girls play game in, game out. For me personally, having a lot of friends in the WNBL and being able to follow them closely now, not through box scores, is just an amazing thing. And I think with everything that's going on in the world and equality, now it's the time that we actually put our money where the mouth is and actually sit down and watch these games, support these women, and let's hope that they have a fantastic season.
Yeah, well, and that season starts Wednesday. 7 p.m. it gets underway, the Lightning versus the Capitals, followed by Perth versus Townsville. I'm going to throw in, I didn't get a chance to talk before about fun to watch. Looking at those two games, we talked about the best youth player, just someone I'm excited to see. She made her debut for the Lightning before going on to a really nice college career at the Oregon Ducks. Morgan Yeager comes back to play for the Lightning. She'll be a youth player to watch there. And then with Perth, another one around a sneaky MVP with Sammy Whitcomb going out. Really excited to see what Katie Ray Ebsbury does. Again, on the verge of an Olympics, looking to put her case of playing for the Opal. She's someone who's going to need to be significant for the Lynx to be up there in the 4 again this season. So there's the first couple of games, but every single game live. How good they're on the verge of another WNBL season.
And of course, the teams need to be able to feel like they're being supported, even though they're not being able to play in any of their home cities. So jump on, check out every one of the WNBL teams' websites. A lot of them are doing just like a little mini membership. So you can actually have, like, some of the players might send you a video or chat to you or whatever it is. But it really throws your support behind the club as well, because not being at home is a bit disappointing, of course. So that's a really good way to stay in touch with them. Guys, any final thoughts?
All good. Can't wait to see the game, see the girls play on Wednesday night.
And for me personally, and I didn't get to say this at the start of the show, it's fantastic to work with friends. Like, this is going to be a really great experience for all of us, and something that we've spoken about. And just very thankful that I've got 3 really good mates in all of you, and happy to be able to sit down and actually chat hoops, which we all love doing week in and week out.
Everybody logged off about a minute ago, were they?
No, my final thoughts, just when are they making the announcement that Wertho's the new Perth Lynx #1 ticket holder?
Yeah, I'm the vice mayor to Basil Zemplis.
Well, I have to say I've caught all the feels from that. Thanks, Wortho, for the love for us. But we are pretty pumped to be here, guys. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, or YouTube. We're going to be live on all those streams, and we will have an actual podcast stream set up shortly as well, as soon as we can. The season has been rushed. We've kind of rushed to get ready, so we're pretty happy to be here, but we can't wait to catch up with you throughout the season. Make sure you tune in on Wednesday, and thank you so much for watching us. We're Two Way Talk. We'll catch you next time. Bye.